Good morning, everybody. Just have some quick news here and a few things to cover. Got some more information from Watchtower. 5-6 pages. Directions related to COVID-19 pandemic for bodies of elders. They even have a table of contents. My goodness. Now I'm going to skip some of this because it's stuff that we have covered in other letters and announcements. They just have directions on contacting the branch office, to general precautions of what the CDC and other health authorities are saying. You know, and I find this interesting because I had come across one of our old videos from 2014. And you know what? I'm going to put the link down below to that video because this was before we started doing the nail and coffin. Now, this property we're talking about in this video is what got us, our spidey senses, to tingling of Watchtower selling off property. And it's like, oh my goodness, even back then, you know, we were realizing that Watchtower was starting to sell off this property. So I'm going to put the link down below that. And, you know, thanks to Island Apostate and little Aposta baby that watches with her, because she's the one that got us this information. She was a PMO at the time and lives in the area. And that is what got us started, that Watchtower was possibly hurting and starting to sell off these properties. So, interesting, looking back at some of the old stuff and what we said. Alright, but the reason I brought this up is because in that video we talk about, back in 2014, the witnesses were upset because the government was telling them not to meet in large groups because of the Ebola virus in Africa. And Watchtower was upset and they were claiming persecution and that their freedom of religion was being violated. And I find that interesting that back in 2014 they were bucking the government and the authorities about the Ebola virus, but yet today they're saying, obey the secular authorities over the COVID pandemic. Interesting. Hoy vey. Now, oh my goodness, I've got a lot of this highlighted, so this is going to take a while. Secular authorities. Restrictions imposed by the government that affect our activities should be followed. And that's why I just brought up the thing about the Ebola, because that was the complete opposite of what they're saying now. Easing of governmental COVID restrictions. When the authorities remove restrictions on certain activities, you will need to consider prayerfully how this will affect your daily life. Generally, we should be more cautious than the secular authorities and our neighbors. We are often eager to resume activities for economic reasons. Personal circumstances vary. Therefore, what may be a prudent decision for one family may be unwise for another. What may be safe in one area may be unsafe in another. To the extent possible, it may be best to stay at home. Now I'm going to skip all of this because they go into the hand washing and face covering and all of that. Social distancing. But the last sentence is, while assisting publishers, elders must be cautious not to establish or to enforce rules. Now, some of the stuff that I'm going to be reading in this letter, I'm wondering if Watchtower is watching our videos that we've been doing, you know, the past couple of months, because some of the stuff we've mentioned, they're covering now in here. Because remember, a couple of weeks ago, we mentioned about the elders trying to have a judicial meeting through the video conferencing. That's covered now in here. We did a video about the baptism of that little kid in the bathtub because of the pandemic. Now it's covered in here. Makes you wonder. Alright, meetings. It is the governing body's earnest desire that body of elders continue to conduct regular weekly congregation meetings, allowing the brothers and sisters to meet together, even electronically, and express their faith is much better than simply watching a recorded program. As noted below, making use of JW Stream should be considered only when other alternatives are not possible. Like we said, we've heard their JW Stream got all clogged up for the memorial, and a lot of the Jehovah's Witnesses couldn't even watch it. Okay, so then they have a couple of points underneath that, and one of them is, as it is not possible for publishers to share in the formal public ministry, the body of elders may decide to adjust the apply yourself to the field ministry section of the midweek meeting for local circumstances. If necessary, parts that include audience participation, such as digging for spiritual gems, the congregation Bible study, and the Watchtower study can either be summarized or presented in a talk format. Selective use of JW Stream. Making use of JW Stream should be considered only when other alternatives are not possible. JW Stream should not be used as a substitute for congregation meetings week after week. Jehovah's people rejoice at every opportunity to come together for worship and express their faith by commenting, even if this must take place by video conference. And we're hearing JWs are loving this. No, most of them are not getting dressed up, staying in their pajamas, sitting there drinking coffee to watch meetings or whatever. They're enjoying staying home. They don't like having to get dressed up and travel sometimes 30, 40 miles one way to the meetings. Funny how sometimes Mike and I kind of foresee, these things. And years ago we were saying that we thought they were going to be going to an online religion. Field ministry. All forms of the public ministry, including the door-to-door work and any form of public witnessing, should continue to be suspended until further direction is received from the branch office. This applies equally to harbor witnessing, prison witnessing, special metropolitan public witnessing, and all other forms of public ministry. Publishers may be able to take advantage of other methods of preaching, such as witnessing to people they know, by telephone, text message, email, or letter. All should use good judgment and exercise caution. And I want to show you right here. They have people they know is in bold print. I wonder if that's because the witnesses were just cold calling all of us, and even those of us who are on the federal do not call list. I wonder if they were getting a lot of complaints. I'm going to read that again. Publishers may be able to take advantage of other methods of preaching, such as witnessing to people they know by telephone, text message, email, or letter. And I like an exercise caution. I wonder how many of them were doing cold calling and getting apostates. Funny. Consideration for pioneers and field missionaries. The governing body understands that because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the ministry of auxiliary pioneers, regular pioneers, special pioneers, and field missionaries may be affected significantly. Pioneers should not feel any obligation to meet our goals. Please take this into account when reviewing the service activity of these individuals. Interesting. Shepherding. During the current pandemic, our dear brothers and sisters need loving elders who will shepherd them and provide well-prepared, timely spiritual instruction. Therefore, please maintain regular contact with each family in the congregation, including making shepherding calls, perhaps by telephone or video conferencing. It's sad, though, that some who are inactive, maybe trying to fade, they're not even apostate, but they're not getting any calls or anything from elders. In fact, we've mentioned that there's a lot of JWs waking up. Well, because I sell a few of, things extra that I don't need as far as literature. I had some old KMs on eBay, and I sold one of those to an elderly JW in England. And the poor guy, he is so lonely. Nobody is contacting him. And it's just sad because, here's a stranger on eBay who sold him KMs, and he's so desperate for some social interaction that, he's been talking to me. So these elders, I know they're overwhelmed right now, and they have enough problems of their own. But a lot of these witnesses that are stuck at home, and I suspect this older gentleman is in a nursing home because his email was like Sunshine Homes in the UK. But guess what? I'm in contact now with him through email, not through eBay anymore, but through email, and he's asking for the older literature, all the older literature. So I think this is a good thing, that because they're getting away from that constant indoctrination, and maybe some of these elderly ones that are in nursing homes and stuff, they're so lonely that they're going online. And I hope they start doing research and seeing, even if they just go to YouTube and put in Jehovah's Witnesses, guess what comes up? Yeah. And I'm going to get to YouTube channels here in just a minute. Inactive. The elders should reach out to inactive ones and keep them updated as to adjustments in the meeting arrangements. If needed, elders may grant inactive ones access to congregation meetings using video conferencing tools such as Zoom or Skype, or recordings of meetings on JW Stream. The world situation may well move some to return to Jehovah. See, they know if they keep pushing this fear that those who are inactive or maybe trying to fade, PMOs, they're trying to get those back. They're trying to get those back because they know they're losing members left and right. Subheading, Theocratic Facilities and Congregation Records. Guests are currently not permitted at Bethel and all tours remain canceled. Kingdom Halls. Regardless of direction from secular authorities, the Kingdom Hall should not be used for any meetings until further direction is received from the branch office. This applies even if the secular authorities begin to ease certain restrictions in the near future. Adjustments by the secular authorities do not automatically mean they're adjustments to theocratic activities. If the body of elders believe there is an exceptional need to use the Kingdom Hall, such as for a judicial committee, a funeral, or a wedding, 2 elders should call the service department and explain the recommendation of the body of elders. Depending on local restrictions, you should take reasonable steps to verify periodically that the Kingdom Hall and other theocratic facilities are secure. If they are not being used during the COVID-19 pandemic, contact the local design construction department if assistance is needed to secure the facility. As our halls will not be in regular use for the foreseeable future. Now, we were hearing rumors that they weren't even going to consider going back to the Kingdom Hall until September. But this says, as our halls will not be in regular use for the foreseeable future. Faults such as gas or water leaks, vandalism, and break-ins may not be identified quickly. It is important that theocratic buildings continue to be maintained to the degree that is reasonable and safe at this time. Careful attention to these points will prevent minor issues from developing into more serious problems. As a reminder, no one should care for these tasks alone. Neither should groups of publishers be invited to attend. Of course, any arrangements made should be in line with the most up-to-date direction from the governmental authorities in your area regarding physical distancing and isolation requirements. With the above in mind, please arrange for the following to be completed. The internal and external condition and security of the Kingdom Hall should be checked weekly. Unnecessary electrical equipment should be unplugged. The building should remain heated and ventilated at regular intervals, but without wasting dedicated resources. Toilets should be flushed and taps run on a weekly basis. Mandatory maintenance and safety work such as boiler servicing should continue as needed. Any issues identified should be dealt with locally where possible. Contact the local design construction department if advice is required. Congregation records. I thought this one was interesting. If you believe, now remember, in those congregation records, they've got their little pedophile database files too. Okay? Congregation records. If you believe that the Kingdom Hall is particularly vulnerable to theft or vandalism, you should take steps to protect congregation records. It may be necessary to secure the files temporarily in the home of an elder. Interesting. Literature and magazine deliveries. All shipments of magazines and literature are suspended until further notice. So they're not even shipping out literature right now. Congregation expenses. Now I'm not going to read this first part because they're just talking about if more than one congregation uses a Kingdom Hall. It says if more than one congregation uses the Kingdom Hall, the operating committee may be able to recommend a lower monthly contribution amount to the congregations. They might be hurting for money because of the following. The body of elders in each congregation should review the congregation's expenses and the donations that are being received. If needed, monthly resolved donations such as those in support of Kingdom Hall and Assembly Hall construction worldwide or the global assistance arrangement may be suspended. If despite all efforts the publishers cannot support the remaining expenses, please contact the service department for direction and assistance. So that tells me it is coming up. Otherwise they wouldn't address it in here. This, I think, is in response to a video we did a while back. Judicial and other serious matters. Video conferencing should not be used for handling judicial matters, including reinstatement hearings. Until circumstances permit the hearing to be held at the Kingdom Hall, the matter may need to be held in abeyance. If the body of elders believes that a judicial matter is urgent and needs to be handled immediately, two elders should contact the service department for direction. Now they talk about medical matters and sisters who have cases involving pregnancy and all of that. Get in contact with the HLC so they can avoid transfusion in an emergency. Then it talks about using the video conferencing. They're going to be streaming conventions and assemblies on JW Broadcast. We've already covered all of this. Now, baptisms. Now remember we did the video about the little kid being baptized in his bathtub. Baptisms are not permitted at this time. Interesting. That hasn't been on any of the other announcements. It's only been now since we did that video about the baptism. When they become possible, once again, those performing baptism should take necessary precautions in accord with guidelines provided by the secular authorities to reduce the spread of COVID-19. No more baptizing little kids in their bathtub. Okay, and then they have baptism in connection with the 2020 convention. If the branch office has directed that baptisms can be resumed by the time of the convention, please make appropriate arrangements for any candidates in your congregation who has been approved for baptism to be immersed locally. And of course they want those numbers. Theocratic schools. And I believe this would include like the elders training school and maybe like the Gilead and the Kingdom Ministers School, all of those. All theocratic schools have been suspended until further notice. So that's the highlights from that. Interesting. Now, I want to thank Ugly Watchtower so much. She was kind enough to allow us to do this video. And no, sweetie, you're never a burden. But thank you for getting us the link to this. It is an article from the Newsday in Trinidad and Tobago. Swaha Incorporated has distributed over 1,200 food hampers and over 500 masks to members of the Hindu community. The masks and hampers were provided using money issued to religious bodies by the government. Okay, now the name of this article is Swaha, S-W-A-H-A. I'm probably not pronouncing that right. Distributes 1,200 hampers with help of government grant. Now, for those of us in this country, it would be like the food boxes, you know, boxes of food and stuff. So this money, these grants, are issued by the government to religious communities to distribute these food hampers. On May 5th, Social Development Minister Camille Robinson Regis announced $10 million in government grants would be issued to religious groups to aid members of their community. Oh yeah, you guys know where this is going, don't you? Pundit Manideo Prasad said in a phone interview on May 29th, Swaha received $200,000 at the beginning of May by check. A statement released by Swaha Incorporated on May 29th said Swaha mobilized our various institutions across TT, that's probably the Trinidad and Tobago, to reach the most needy in various communities. It also said in addition to the government relief, they also received donations, funding, and contributions from members and supporters. Hampers and masks were funneled through 12 Swaha Hindu centers, the Swaha Hindu College, 4 Swaha Early Child Care and Education Centers, and Swaha Social Services Arm. Prasad said they received an overwhelming response from people for the donations. The phone lines were swamped, he said, and a website had to be set up to aid in hamper distribution. Through the phone lines, they were able to facilitate almost 200 applicants, and the website reached over 1,900 applicants. Although they were not able to provide for all of the applicants, he said the people have been patient. Everything can't happen overnight. It's difficult, he said. It is a unique situation, but the government has done quite a good job in containing the spread of the virus. The statement said a robust system of checks and balance was implemented to ensure the highest levels of accountability and transparency. It also said the experience was both rewarding and heart-wrenching as it further highlighted the need for such outreach actions. Now, before I read the next paragraph, I just want to mention, Watchtower claims they have all these charities, these nonprofit, tax-exempt charities all over the world. And they keep saying how much they do relief aid. And we know, you and I know, this is only to their own people. This is only for in good standing Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay? So I'm going to read the last paragraph of this. And I'm going to put the link down below to this article. Other religious bodies, such as the Baha'i Faith, have also received grants. The Jehovah's Witnesses of TT, however, said in a statement they would not be accepting the grant, stating they are not logistically equipped to handle a distribution of that magnitude. What? They're not logistically equipped to handle a distribution of that magnitude? Didn't Mike just read about how they were bragging of handing out millions of these flyers in protest in France? Haven't they been bragging for years about their relief aid and how many thousands of Jehovah's Witnesses they help? Haven't they been bragging about all the millions, probably billions of pieces of literature they've handed out? If you can hand out a watchtower to billions of people, why can't you hand out a few thousand food boxes so that you can deserve your tax-exempt charity status? Huh? I mean, this Hindu, they got $200,000. Maybe that's not enough for Watchtower to worry about, get involved with. Wow. So anyway, there's that. Now, I just wanted to mention Vinnie Vincent has put up a video, and it is a warning from 1965. Now, many of you know who Paul Harvey is. He was a well-known radio personality in this country for years, but he did a little piece back in 1965 about if I were the devil. I would recommend listening to this because everything he said back in 1965 is happening. Very profound. Like I said, I'm going to put the link down below to all of these videos. Now, I also want to mention that one of our members of our Watchtower Property Tracker team, tongue twister, Bill, I'm going to put the link down below to his latest video, Apostate of Oz. Now, I know it's an hour long, but I recommend watching it and listen and look at his flow charts and stuff, because he has been working diligently trying to track the money of the donations and all of these charities. And it's amazing when you see all of this money going to the charities, and he has been tracking this. And I also know he's been talking to reporters about this that are interested in this. So like I said, I would recommend going and listening to his videos, this video, because it's only got 122 views, friends. I would love to see this go viral because there's some very important information in here about following the money, you know, and how it's funny because Mike keeps talking about a money laundering system within the Watchtower organization, and we only see a little tiny glimpse of it, but Bill has got, you know, some great information. So thank you, Bill, appreciate it. Now also, and I wish I had time to mention all of the new channels. You know, if some of you have, you know, YouTube channels and, you know, you're just getting going, please put the link down below so that all of us, you know, can see where your channel is, because I don't always see all of these. There's another one, I Am Truth Seeker, and we've been watching her videos, and my goodness, sweetie, excellent, excellent. And she's got one here, Jehovah's Punishment for Women Who Did This. This may shock you, Old Testament, XJW perspective. And it's so interesting how a lot of us XJWs have been doing this research. We've gone back and read our Bibles, and we all keep saying the same thing. I just don't see how a God of love can be the same God that is in the Old Testament. You know, and many of us are saying that. We just can't, you know, put those two together. So to us, there's two different gods. You know, there's the source, the God of love, the Heavenly Father. There's that one, and then there's this one that is in the Old Testament. They just can't be the same. And, you know, when you read in the New Testament, Jesus and his teachings, it was about love and forgiveness and kindness and equality. I don't care how they try to meld the two books, but I don't think Jesus is the God in the Old Testament either. So thank you, sweetie. And once again, it was I Am Truth Seeker. And I want to thank all of you, you know, who are doing YouTube videos and forums and posts and Twitter and Reddit and sending us emails and information. And I appreciate your patience because I'm getting dozens of emails every day. But don't stop, because we love getting this information and all of this. And thank you, Atlantis and Petra. We appreciate you getting us these, you know, documents. And I mean, it's just overwhelming of what is going on now, and many of us working as a team. And that's the thing, and that's how Mike and I look at it, as all of us working together as a team. You know, look at this Watchtower Property Tracker. we're working together as a team, and we're trying to, and it's funny because we don't sit down and have like board meetings and say, hey, you work on this, you work on that, and then we'll meet back together and get this information together. It's funny because we don't even know what the others are doing, and then all of a sudden they say, hey, I found this, and it's like, wow, well, look, I found this. Or like this morning, it's like, holy crap, I completely forgot about Island Apostate giving us this information back in 2014 about this complex. So I just added that to the Watchtower property tracker because I watched our video and I had the property link in underneath our video. That complex sold for $7.6 million in 2014, July of 2014. So anyway, but it takes all of us working together to expose this dangerous, evil, satanic cult for what it is. And so if anybody has any information that you think might help us, I want to mention too, Smurf Girl has just done a video about her idea of getting the governing body arrested for extortion. And I had done a video, oh my goodness, months ago, probably even the end of last year, about the Mormon Church being investigated for this very thing. These members are speaking up and saying, look, we were lied to. We have PTSD from leaving. We're being threatened. We've been abused. We've been used. And they're taking this money, laundering it to these other corporations to make more money. And that's exactly what Watchtower is doing. I just wish we could get, a forensic accountant or someone who could dig and find out, these records and where the money is going. Where is all these billions of dollars going? So thank you for watching, and you guys have a wonderful week. Bye.